Hey guys, Joey here. There was just a few events and some updates that I wanted to keep you informed on. I thought I would let you know I have two rail fanning trips for December 7th and December 12th coming up. I'm going to be going to the NS Norfolk District on the 7th because that's going to be the last time that I'll get to see the Amtrak 02E test train. December 12th is the official run. Also, I heard that they've sold out of tickets, so they're actually going as far as adding 3 or 4 other cars to the train. So that will be an 11 or 12 car regional as opposed to the 8 car regional that we usually see. Now, it's actually going to be a train that normally departs from. Normally, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Normally terminates at Richmond. But what they're going to do basically is they're going to be running it past Richmond, down the A line, and then there's a connection at the BX. There's a new connection at BX, also known as Bootleggers. In Petersburg, they're going to make it so it turns off of the CSX onto the NS and joins the Belt Line. So basically, the Amtrak trains from Norfolk will go south to east, whereas the other ones will go west to north. And right now, they're only doing one departure from Norfolk and one to Norfolk. I think in the next 1 to 3 months, though, they're going to be adding more Amtrak trains. They have been saying that they're going to have 3 to Norfolk and 3 from Norfolk. So hopefully there'll be a few daylight runs, because right now there's only the 4:50 a.m. departure, which, by the way, I'm not going to say because that's just way too dang early, and I'm not going to do it. My friend Colin is going to. He's going to do it. And I told him, I said, well, you have fun, buddy, but I'm not going out there that early. Absolutely not. Anyway, that's beside the point. The, excuse me, the eastbound return will come into Norfolk just before 9 p.m. on Monday through Friday and Sunday. Saturday it will come in at almost midnight. So either way, it'll still be dark either time when the trains come through, especially with the days being as short as they are. As you know, it's coming up on the end of November now, and the days are a lot shorter. And so by the time the Amtrak comes through on the weekdays and Sunday, it will have been dark for probably 2.5, 3.5 hours or so. So, but there's plenty of places on the Norfolk District that have good lighting that I could catch that. So that'll work just fine. The one other thing that I wanted to mention was grain train season I'm sorry, let me rephrase that again. Grain season is in, and it's very unusual. But Norfolk Southern has been known to run loaded and empty grain trains to and from Norfolk, respectively. In fact, on the day that Colin and I caught the Bay Coast, that was, I don't know, a few weeks ago or so, you probably saw those videos, there was actually an NS 57K that was sitting in Port Lock Yard, but we thought the CNA was coming, which it never did, so we blew that off and didn't get to see it. But at least we know that the grain trains are running because, as I said, it is grain season. They're fairly rare. We do get them, but it's just not a very common occurrence. It's not like the coal trains when you can more or less count on those. The grain trains are just either they come or they don't. Same with the ethanol trains. Speaking of chemical trains, that actually reminds me, the CSX Peninsula Sub. changing the subject. The CSX Peninsula Sub that runs from Newport News to Richmond, you know, Lightfoot, Norge, that line out there. I actually got word from my friend David Tooley, who lives out in the Williamsburg area, and he said that a friend of his, who I also know, said after the first of the year, CSX is going to start running crude oil trains, or petroleum trains. Basically, it's going to look a lot like the ethanol trains we see on the Norfolk District, except it's going to be crude oil, not ethanol. And I thought they were very similar, but apparently they're two completely different things, which I did not know about until recently. I mean, I knew they weren't the same, obviously, but I thought they were more similar than they actually are. And there's going to be 4 of them daily. Notice I said daily, not as needed like the coal trains and the rock trains. So there's going to be 2. There's a refinery somewhere in Newport News. I don't know exactly where it is, but that's where they're going to get them. There's going to be two Newport News and 2 from Newport News. And they're all going to be daily, so I should be able to catch at least one. I heard there's going to be 2 or 3. I think they said 2 or 3 engines on the front and 1 on the rear, so there's actually going to be a distributed power unit, which I think is really, really cool for a chemical train. But it's basically, I want to say it's going to be probably, like I said, 2 or 3 engines, probably a boxcar or a grain car for a spacer, and I'd say between 70 and 130 chemical cars, then probably another spacer, and then probably the DPU, or maybe the DPU and no spacer at the end. I don't know, they haven't run them yet, but I think they're actually coming from the Midwest. I'm thinking either the West or the Midwest, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But if that is the case, there's a possibility that we could get to see Union Pacific or even BNSF power, which would be really, really, really awesome, because on CSX around here, we don't get foreign power. I mean, a few years ago, you could see UP or BNSF once in a while. Sometimes CP if you got lucky to see a sulfur train on the A line, which I never saw. But unless you go to like the northern CSX lines, like Fostoria, Ohio, and everywhere up there where they run everything and everything comes together, really there's no foreign power around here. Every once in a while you'll get lucky and see a lease unit, but other than that, it's just CSX blue and yellow is about all there is. Kind of boring, but that's okay. But like I said, if they do run those trains from the west of the Midwest, there's a possibility we could get foreign power. Like I said, don't quote me on it, but it could. And that Peninsula Sub, as you know, is a mostly coal route with Amtrak and the odd rock train thrown in, so that crude oil trains will definitely break the coal train monotony. Don't get me wrong, I love the Peninsula Sub. It's a great line. It's not the busiest by any means, because it's almost all coal trains, which means it can be really, really busy or it can be really, really slow. But it is a cool line to rail fan. There are a little too many AC-44s out there for my taste. They get a little monotonous after a while, but every once in a while you'll get lucky with 70 Mac or AC6000 or an ES44AC or maybe even standard cab EMD power or an Ace if you're really lucky. But that rarely ever happens because CSX only owns 25 of that, or pardon, not 25, 20 of those on the roster. I was hoping they would get a few more, but CSX apparently hates the Thunder cabs. So I think they're probably going to stick to the GEVO orders. Speaking of which, they're through the 5200 and through part of the 5500 number series for the DC. The ACs are 700 through 999, and then 3000 through 3064, something like that. And the 950 through $9.99, and all the 3000 series have that new boxcar logo, which is pretty awesome. And actually, there's at least 170 Mac on the CSX roster that has been repainted into the, I guess you could either call it Yellow Nose 4 or Yellow Nose 3B scheme, depending on how you want to look at it. But I think eventually all the CSX locomotives are going to be in that paint scheme, but they've got 3,000 plus locomotives. It's going to take a while to repaint the whole fleet for sure. It'll take years, probably, in fact. Anyway, I just wanted to keep you updated on what's going on and some updates. And I just be safe at the tracks, and everybody have a good Thanksgiving. And by the way, also this year, in December 25th of this year will mark 1 year I've been filming in 1080p HD with that Sony HX9V, which I have right here. In fact, I'll show it to you. Most of y'all have probably seen this before, but I'll show you anyway. It's this is what I use to video my trains. I'm making a video. Can you hang on a minute? Sorry, somebody at my door. I think that was my mom. Anyway, this right here, this little tiny thing, believe it or not, this is what I use, and it's tiny. I mean, it's like my hand is bigger than this thing. I mean, look at that. Of course, I have big hands, but still, that's a very small camera. Movie mode's right here. But it's got a, I want to say it's a 3-inch, 2.5-inch LCD screen. It's got a really good picture quality. It's just a picture of me. It's 16.2 megapixels. It's got a Sony G lens, as you can see. 16x zoom. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I've really enjoyed this camera. It's been very enjoyable to use. Very nice quality. The zoom actually pops up on here. Push this button right here, turn it on for you. And when I push the shutter, it pops up. And I just took a picture of the webcam. Bright light. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to delete those pictures because they're really crappy. Anyway, but this is what I use, and there actually was a little rubber part right here that was supposed to go over the speaker, but that peeled off. And the speaker's right there for playing back videos. Microphone's right here. It's a stereo microphone, and really good sound quality. And as you can see, it says HD AVCHD. AVCHD is Advanced Video Codec High Definition, which, is better than regular HD in that it's 60 fields per second instead of the native 24 or 30 fields per second. It also does 480p, 720p, and then it's got 3 1080i modes and 2 1080p modes. And the 480 and the 720 are MP4 modes. There's a 1080 30p mode, which I used for a brief period of time. Quality was not as good. Sound quality was not as good. Still good, but it just wasn't as good as the AVC HD. But I'll show you. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, right here records in highest image quality, 1920 by 1080 60p. Now that's the mode that I usually use. I have used all of these modes though. Go down to FX. That's in 1080 60i, so that's 1080i, which is interlaced instead of progressive scan. Still pretty good, but not quite as clear as 1080p. But yeah, it says FX on it. Go down another one to FH mode. That's also 1080i. I honestly can't tell that much difference between FX and FH, but there is a slight difference. HQ mode is next. Now notice the frame size changed. So this is 1440 by 1080. The frame size is smaller, which makes for a more compressed image. It's still very good quality, but there's more compression, particularly when you look at it in YouTube. But yeah, so I'm just going to leave it on PS for now. In fact, actually, there's actually something else I mentioned. There's actually a thing that says right here. Shoot. Hold on. Let's see if this works. HD movies shot in PS cannot be saved to Blu-ray/DVD discs in 60p quality. Not exactly sure what that means, but whatever. As far as the videos are concerned, you can also go to MP4 mode, which is right here. Put movie format, put MP4 30p, and then go to the movie mode, and then there's VGA, which is 480p standard def. And then there's 1280 by 720, which is regular high def. And then finally there's 1440 by 1080. Now that's one of the complaints I have about this camera, is that it doesn't have a 1920 by 1080. It's only 1440 by 1080 30p. So I wasn't too pleased with that, but like I said, I use AVC HD for the most part with that PS mode because it just looks amazing. And sure, it takes longer to upload, but it's worth it. It doesn't take forever. I think the longest I've had a video take was maybe an hour and a half. I can usually upload a 3 or 4 minute video in about 20-30 minutes because YouTube's got a better uploader now. But anyway, just thought I'd show you what I use for my videoing and tell you about what's going on and what's to come. So I hope everybody has a very happy Thanksgiving, safe travels if you're going anywhere, and I will have some rail fanning videos coming shortly after Thanksgiving. Everybody have a good night now. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.